Hello all, and welcome to my third battle report. It's High Elves versus Vampire Counts, and it's going to be a 1500 point test game for a campaign that's coming up. Uh, Rules for the campaign and my list are going to be in the comments section, uh, and you will see a new army come time for the campaign. So before the game starts, we have to figure out our special character generals. They're not really special characters, but they have special abilities. Mine has advantage of ground, which means I get to choose between deploying first or second, and he has strong blows, which once per game he will allow a single unit on his thing to hit or to wound at +1. So it's a random thing specific to the campaign. Don't worry about it too much. It doesn't come much into play. I choose to deploy second, and as you can see, he deploys as followed. Um, he has his sword masters with a level 2 mage in there with the silver wand, a lion chariot, and a second unit of Swordmasters. He's proxying. Those are Phoenix Guard models, I think, but he's using them as Swordmasters. And then towards the center of his line, he has 39 spearmen with his general, with a great weapon, his noble with great weapon, armor of Caldor, and Guardian Phoenix, all in that unit. And then following up on his left flank, our right, he has a unit of 5 uh, princes, dragon princes, just ready to tear up my flank if he can get in. So on the leftmost, I have 8 hex wraiths, which I vanguarded up to try and get in range of my general so that they can march next turn. I didn't quite get to that point. I was hoping that with turn 1, if I moved up further, I'd be able to do that. I have 10 Black Knights full command with lances and barding, and then you can see my Necromancer is in a unit of zombies. It's only 40 zombies with the standard and musician, and the necromancer only has is only level 2 with the dispel scroll. So that's about it. Um, this is the first edit of it. I realized that my skeleton unit, which is 45, is over the limit for the campaign, so I had to drop him down to 40. But we played him with 45. It didn't really matter. Um, and it is my vampire, my general. Uh, he's level 2, Armor of Destiny, Quick Blood, Beguile. And I forgot to mention that our general's unit is considered a bodyguard unit, which will get an additional either attack, weapon skill, or whatever. My skeletons have additional weapon skill, making them weapon skill 3, and so that they don't hit on 5s. And his spearmen have an additional attack, being their bodyguard. And then on the right, I just have a Terrorgeist to try and protect me from those Dragon Princes. So I got first turn. I was lucky enough that he rolled a 1, even though he got the +1 for the turn, that I was able to beat him out. I moved up, as you can see, just slightly, making sure that my units were moving faster than his. Um, and weren't, they were just out of charge range. And as you can see on the right, I positioned my Terrorgeist ever so slightly so that it would be mostly behind the house. Um, I was basically trying to use this tactic to try and prevent him from getting, if he decided to charge, all 5 of those Reavers, or not Reavers, Dragon Princes, or whatever they were, into my front. I didn't want him to charge, but I wasn't close enough to fly around him this turn. Now, I forgot before deployment, I usually go over the what spells each have, so I'll do it now. The High Elf Wizard has the Withering, Mystifying Miasma, and Pit of Shades, while my Vampire hero has Curse of Years, my Necromancer has Hellish Vigor, and they both have Invocation of Nehek. So we move on to the first magic phase, and I have 5 dice to his 3. I cast Curse of Years on 3 dice, and he lets that go, and I'm ecstatic about that. Um, I don't even care about the invocations; I just throw them. Uh, 1 dice each for both the Necromancer and the Vampire, just figuring if one goes off, and they both fail. I rolled a 2 or 1 on both of them, so I'm just ecstatic about Curse of Years. Curse of Years goes off the first turn, again on wounds on a 6+, and it's a die for all 39. It ends up doing 1 wound to the character and 5 wounds to the unit. So I'm really happy about that. So the first thing he does is declare charge with his chariot, and he's 18 inches away. He figures he can get a 10 on 2d6 or 3d6 minus the lowest, and he fails. He gets a 9, so which is about average. He gets a 17 inch away from where he needs to be, and he just moves forward 6 inches, and it forces him to move his line up further than probably he wants, as you can see here. He does move his princes up slightly, but just to kind of turn them a little bit to match, to make sure that no matter where I go, I tend to be in their front arc. We move on to the High Elf Magic phase, and he gets 10 dice to my 6. And he immediately 2 dice goes miasma, you know, initiative, minus D3 initiative on the Hex Race, throws 2d6 at it, and I just let it go. I don't care. They're initiative 2 anyway, and though I know the combo he's trying to do with this, I know, you know what, it doesn't matter. I need to focus on the damaging one, not the one that's going to make the damaging one worse. And then he throws 5 dice at Pit of Shades, and this is the one that I know I have to get rid of. It's going to either kill the Hex Race or they're going to stay around. So I throw a Dispel Scroll at it. I don't even think about it. It's 6 dice. He had like it. I didn't want to risk it, just so I put it all in. And then he tried to dispel Curse of Years on 3 dice, and he failed. And Curse of Years did about 9 wounds. So Curse of Years again just did really well. And so learning from my battle report, the second battle report, I pulled the trigger. Um, My Hex Wraith go crashing into his Swordmasters. My Black Knight goes crashing into the chariot. Um, I wanted to get rid of it, and have not. I don't want to deal with the impact hits at all. And you can see my skeletons ended up going straight into his spearman. I figured I'm gonna lose combat res, but I'm gonna tie them up, and they still have Curse of Years on them, so it's gonna hurt. Either way, there's 24 remaining. They don't even have the they don't even have another rank, so I'm gonna get hurt. But Curse of Years is gonna whittle them down, and if I can get him focused on combat, he might not even pay attention to the one spell that is just crippling him. And then my Terrorgeist decides I'm gonna charge the Dragon Princes. It's not what I wanted. It's not what I wanted to do, but he ended up rolling a 4 for flee. He chose to flee because he wanted to try and save him for the next turn, to try and get him back. He probably would have been better staying. He was worried about being only strength 3, but the Terrorgeist needed to do something about him, and the Terrorgeist ended up catching him going about 20 inches. It was, my roll was great. His roll was crap. So very lucky there. We move on to my second magic phase, and I get 9 dice to his 6, and I immediately just take 6 dice and cast it on Hellish Vigor, the large version, and I don't know why, because this is the one that he needed to get rid of. He let it go. That was the one dice that he really just, or the one thing he absolutely needed to get rid of. He should have thrown all 6 dice at it and gotten rid of it. I now re-roll a wound on everything that's in combat, so it helps a lot. I then try and do 6 inches of Invocation of Nahak on 2d6, and then another 6 for the vampire, and he fails to dispel one of those two. And yet again, Curse of Years, completely forgotten about, needs to be dispelled. It does 12 wounds to the remaining 24 models in his unit. The character is gone, and that unit is just a fraction of what it was just when he deployed. It's insane how effective that one spell is on infantry. So, because there's no shooting, my Terrorgeist is out of range. We move on to combat, and my Hexwraiths kill 6 of his guys and end up winning by 3. And he ends up staying, and so they're there. The Black Knights just do the 4 wounds that the chariot has, and they decide to overrun. With the overrun, they hit the swordsman, so that's what I wanted. I want to hit the swordsman. I want to get in combat so that in the next round of combat, I'm counted as charging still, so I get the +2 strength, and that was important to me. And then we have the vampire with the skeletons, and they end up killing 7 of my skeletons, and I end up killing a few, but I end up losing by 3 combat res. So I just sit there. I lose 3 more, and we have my unit just sitting there waiting for some damage. So in his turn, all he does is he reforms the Swordmasters to try and match me with my Black Knights so that all models can attack. And that's all the movement he can do. So we move on to his second magic phase, and he gets 7 dice to my 6, and he throws everything he's got at Mystifying Miasma on the Black Knights. He's just trying to get their weapon skill down so that I'm hitting on 5s and irresistibles. And so there's nothing I can do there. The Black Knights are pretty much hitting on 5s. They're still re-rolling the wound, but they're hitting on 5s now. And Curse of Years does 3 wounds. So that unit is just gone. It's done. Just from Curse of Years. Now here's where it gets sketchy. I forgot to take pictures because things were just going so fast and were kind of not moving because we were all just in combat. At the end of turn 2, his turn 2, my Hexwraiths kill 6 and win by 5. He no longer has any ranks. He just has the banner. So I end up chasing him down, and I don't even need much to chase him down. I rolled a 4 and I still chased him down. That's how he's getting unlucky with those rolls. The Black Knights end up dying. I think he killed 6, and then I lost combat by 2, so there is 1 remaining. And yeah, the next magic phase, I tried to throw anything I could at Invocation to try and get those knights up, and both times I was either dispelled or failed. So at the end of turn 3, um, end of my turn 3, we're looking at it like this. This is the end of my turn 3, and because combat reforms after the Black Knights die, and he's sitting there just he doesn't know what to charge, he doesn't know what to do. So he sits there. He probably should have charged something. So in my turn, I just move my Terrorgeist right up front, and my Hex Race go through. So this is the top of turn 4. The Hex Race just go through and do 6 wounds. The Terrorgeist screams and does 3 wounds, and I really can't do nothing with my magic. And he only has 1 left. So with his last remaining Swordmaster, he charges the Terrorgeist and does 1 wound to the Terrorgeist before he proceeds to die. It was funny, and we just played it because. So at the end of turn 4, I end up massacring and killing everything. So that's the end of the game right there. So lessons learned. First of all, pulling the trigger works. You just gotta make sure that you know when to. Um, for example, I know my Black Knights have a 16-inch charge range because they're movement 7 with barding, and the statistical average is about a 9. So I know my charge range is about 16 inches with my Black Knights. And I knew that with movement 8, his chariot was a 17-inch. That's why I stayed further out. I stayed at 18 inches. Um, so it's definitely one of those things of, oh my god, I got close enough so that I could pull him forward and then get into my charge range, and that was probably his biggest mistake. Um, Ethereals at 1500 points is just unfair, especially with the campaign rules we have, where it's heroes only. Ethereals are just devastating because there's not enough magic weapons. This may change in the uh, later in the campaign when people start getting magic items, but in the very beginning, they're just devastating. Um, Positioning is just absolutely key. Knowing the difference between 18 inches and 17 inches, it changed the game. Um, Knowing that I had my flanks secured up with my most killy units versus it just really helped. And Curse of Years, I, I never had Curse of Years work as well as it did in this game. As you saw in the last game, it really did nothing against those trolls. Perhaps because there was only 8 of them, so getting rid of the wounds, it was harder. And with this, there was 39 of them. So against large units, especially infantry units, Curse of Years is just a must take, and I'm starting to think that it's a must take for these, but if I don't see the large units of 40 plus, 30 to 40 plus, don't take it. Against multiple small units, Curse of Years is not enough.